Directed by Oliver Hermanus, Living, released in 2022, transplants the story of Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru to the post-war London. The film follows the story of a civil servant Williams, the head of Public Works Department, who receives a terminal health diagnosis and after a period of shock, begins to take stock in his life and essentially try to be the best person he can before he dies. Also, he is forced to act to try and grasp fulfillment in his life before it goes beyond reach. Apart from its own considerable merits, the film has given across the world the reason to revisit the 1952 original, a standout work even in the golden decade of Japanese cinema. In the 1950s, concentrated within a single country, were some of the greatest filmmakers to ever live in this planet, simultaneously producing their own greatest works. The result was complete decentralization of classic cinema, as the world now exposed to its new trope of masters. But this was not always the case for Japanese cinema. In fact, they had to struggle. Japan had to struggle. They had to put in a fight with the country that occupied their country, restricted and dictated their cinema. It's a much of a rebellious story all in itself. And the story began with a bang.
Beneath that sinister pall of smoke, the world's most destructive force has been unleashed.
I have received this afternoon a message from the Japanese government which specifies the unconditional surrender of Japan.
After World War II was over, the Japanese people were left with the reality that they were an ethnically homogeneous and culturally unified nation that did not fit compatible with the new democratic world. The American military occupation took control of the entire Japanese film industry from 1945 until 1952. America's strict censorship policy began to forcibly remove any image, theme, or even line of dialogue that were liable to sympathize with the suffering of Japanese people, criminalizing the production of propaganda films and banning the military imagery, with not just war movies but even feudal periods pieces off the table. The only viable genre was what scholars had labeled shomengi, the realistic cinema of common people in ordinary situations. Even there, the American censorship had their scissors out. On their orders, Masahiro Makino had to eliminate a shot of a potentially nationalist symbol of Mount Fuji. Yasujiro Ozu had to cut out a line from his film Late Spring about Tokyo being full of bomb sites. These rules started to evaporate toward the end of the occupation, so by the 1951, Kurosawa could dare to make his historical picture Rashomon.
Here I come. Here I come.
And even have it without his consent to go onto screen at Venice Film Festival and win a Golden Lion. And then an Academy Award.
Which film award goes to a remarkable Japanese film, Rashomon.
The West had started to acquire a taste for Japanese movies, and the Japanese film industry were too eager to cater to it. Major movie making studios started to hire the best artists of the time and gave them the financial backing and creative freedom that they needed. And the result was that the studio made a lot of money, filmmakers created an abundance of masterpieces, and the golden age of Japanese cinema meant that the theaters were filled with large number of audience. The world now finally met with its new trope of masters. The 1950s brought a worldwide acclaim to a Mount Rushmore of Japanese authors. Kurosawa, who revived the samurai film, did something for cinema as a whole that most filmmakers hope to do, bridging the gap between one's artistry and mainstream appeal. Kenji Mizoguchi, the director who made Ugetsu, looked on all reality with a transcendental gaze. Although not as grandiose as Kurosawa, not as spiritual as Mizoguchi, Ozu epitomizes a sentimentality that perhaps has not been as well achieved by any other filmmakers to this day. One could enjoy a rich vision of life with and through only the works of Japanese filmmakers of the 50s. The 1950s cinema of Japan is an era with a myriad of different ways. Many remembered it as an era of a great samurai films, but then you can't neglect the influence those humanist family drama that had left to the contemporary society. It was also an era of monster blockbusters. The transcendental tale, the technical epic, it was all of these things and so much more. It showed cinema as a catalyst for people that had so much taken away from them. That films were led by ingenuity. If nothing else, the golden age of Japanese cinema can show us the pinnacle of what cinema could achieve and the standard we should continue to strive for.